Hey guys, what is up? It's me, Jackie M.A. Grenier, debut author of sci-fi mystery teen drama that should be coming out this upcoming September. Fingers crossed, I finally finished the draft. So now I'm going to set that aside for 1 month so I can actually focus on other things, right? I've been thinking a lot too, and I've been thinking about prologues a lot as well. Before we continue on with the video though, my channel is actually all about writing tips and tricks, planning and plotting, reading excerpts and short stories. So if you guys like that kind of content, hit the subscribe button down below and give this video a like. If you like this kind of content, it shows me what I should upload and what I shouldn't upload, which gives me a very solid hint on the short stories, although everyone seems to like the one Edgar Allan Poe that I did upload. Thanks a lot for your guys' support on that. The reason why I'm like a little bit zippity zappity do is because I actually have quite a huge checklist to do. What is exactly a prologue? It's kind of like the prequel to the chapter, right? To the first chapter or the book, right? In a way, it is. But unfortunately, most books actually don't need it. And it also really depends on the genre too, because like what I've noticed in like most if not almost all romance novels that I've read, there's little to no prologues. That's one thing for sure. I've noticed too in all the mystery novels that I've been reading, those ones, if not most of them at least, actually have a prologue. What a prologue is actually supposed to do, and like this is the reason why, in my personal opinion, that in mystery genres, that the prologue in a way is actually pretty necessary, because Lars Kepler's had it in this one, and I'm pretty sure that like in all these ones do too. I'm pretty sure the Inugami Curse had one. The Dekacon House Murders also had one. Bethany Atazada's series, Numbers series, here Evelyn's Number and Pearl's Numbers also did, and I found that pretty interesting too. This series here is actually a dystopian series, dystopian religion sci-fi series. There are some exceptions to the rule as well, but prologues in a way aren't necessary in book. The genre it's actually under is mystery. My book actually in a way needed a prologue. The prologue is supposed to introduce the entirety of the book, so in a way the prologue can make or break the book. A lot of people will inevitably just skip over it, right? It's essentially kind of like a prequel optional short story at the beginning of the book. It's supposed to have just the one event, right? Right. Some of the questions you should ask yourself. This is just like what I've done in my own research, what I've learned for myself in the books that I've been reading and writing as well. And keep in mind too, it depends on the genre as well. Most mystery novels, as you might notice, do actually have prologues, because those prologues actually foreshadow the rest of the book. Like Lars Kepler's Lazarus was probably only no more than like 2 pages and a third. That's it. And what their prologue did is one of the reasons why I actually really love these people. The reason why I think the prologue is so effective in mystery novels is because it foreshadows the rest of the entire novel. Like most prologues I've noticed is only about 2 to 3 pages long. Sometimes it's only like just like the 1 page as well too, is what I've seen. If you feel like the prologue is absolutely necessary to your book and everything, you should ask yourself at least 3 questions before you even start it, or like even plot the prologue itself, because by itself it's an event, might have to foreshadow the rest of the book, so the prologue needs to be very carefully written. Is the prologue tense enough? Does it introduce a theory in your book that helps get the gears rolling in your reader's head? Is there even a time skip? Like, that's definitely another question, because like some time skips can be like a week later or even like 10 years later or so. It's supposed to introduce like some kind of theory as well. You should also ask too, I keep saying foreshadowing, like it's basically the basis of this video, but hate to say it, but it is the basis of the video. Does the prologue foreshadow the rest of the book? Or at least most, if not at least half of the book. My prologue, it opens with a crime scene, right? And the chief of the Tokyo precinct is there. The bag is full of body parts. It's like almost nothing but bone, right? And so like this guy is like super, he's so mad at himself. Like he could not catch this serial killer no matter how hard he tried. And so like just to like clear his head, he walked away from it, walked into an alley just to clear his head. And then that is basically when the theory of the premise actually does come in. Granted, it's still a mystery novel and there's still the serial killer there, which helps set the tone for the rest of the book, because it's cryptic and it's already very dark. But it introduces that it's a mystery novel, but it also introduces that it's sci-fi as well. The chief and the precinct are no longer the only ones looking at this case. It's these other beings that work on the sidelines to help keep the city safe and help solve mysteries like this one. My prologue introduces the theory of what it means to be a particular being. I felt like my prologue was necessary because I needed to introduce the being theory. Here are like some things, like just like a couple of examples of what you should not put as a prologue. One of the things that like you definitely should not do, and I personally learned this the hard way too, the prologue should not be a false start. Because what if your readers like that start better than what's actually happening in the book? Another do not do is don't do any dream sequences, because that was the one I was going to do for my book until I looked up and everything like that. When I started doing my own research on like how to write prologues and everything like that, turns out dream sequences are a huge no, and I'm very glad that I went with the other idea for a prologue anyway, which is what I came up with, the prologue that I told you guys about earlier. Another don't is just making it totally insignificant. Like one prime example, what seems like it's a huge time skip, but it was still so significant to the story. Everyone knows the series of the Lord of the Rings, right? In the books, it does open up with the prologue, like once upon a time, and they explain everything that happened in hundreds of years ago, and yet that was still somehow significant to the main storyline of the movie, because like with every book the prologue was different. In the second book, the prologue I think was with the golem. Like that was in the movie, but like, I can't remember if that was in the second book. I could be wrong. You can comment down below to see if I was wrong. It's totally fine if I was wrong with that one. I'm not hurt. I just have a lot of random memories. Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're accurate. This could be one of those times. Another great example of a prologue is probably the Harry Potter series as well, in like the very first book and like the very first chapter, or the prologue. That was very significant to the series because they were dropping off a sole survivor of the Potter family at Harry Potter's aunts and uncles' place. That's very, very significant. Let's go over what we spoke about in the prologue. This is just more like a rough guideline of what a prologue is and what you can do to write it, but there's also some examples of how to not write a prologue. The prologue has to be significant to the plot line. The prologue can foreshadow what's happening later on in the book. Or another thing you can do is, like, it can also introduce a theory as well, especially if it's in the mystery novels. Keep in mind to don't add a prologue unless you feel it's necessary. Don't be like, my book needs a prologue because I say so. No. At first, I thought my book did need a prologue, and I was actually opting to let the prologue go. And I actually only had my prologue, the one that I told you guys about a little earlier, as a tester. But no, like 4 out of 4 like the prologue of the people that actually read it. They like it because it sets the tone. They like it because it introduces the theory of these beings that help protect people and help solve mysteries on the sidelines. It also like asks a question. Who is this person? And how do they do it? It even introduces the sci-fi aspect as well. Just remember to ask yourself if the prologue in itself is necessary, not just to you. Like, you probably want to put it in, right? It's a want rather than a need. Guarantee it, your book probably does not need a prologue. Just remember, the prologue is totally optional. A side little bonus tip for you: if you are going to add a prologue, put it in epilogue. But the epilogue is a topic for another day, everybody. That's all I got for you guys today. This video is already a little long. I wanted to keep this one short, but apparently I went on another tangent because apparently that's just what I do.
What weird advice shall I give you guys today?
Remember to wash your hands after you wash your underwear. I said what I said.
Judge Jackie has spoken.